entry into a Holmby Hills mansion that's owned by a prominent celebrity and their business. So clearly, this is something that doesn't happen just overnight. Law enforcement officials do have to have their evidence ready. They have to make sure every T is crossed in order to make entry into a home like this for an investigation. So when we talk about and see these kinds of raids happen or having them be conducted, it kind of shows that they do have enough evidence that
That's
their
crazy, bro.
investigation is to a certain point where they have made a search warrant and they've gotten all of the evidence they need to have a search warrant, that they have to establish that a crime was possibly committed and there's evidence of probable cause and a crime that has taken place. So all of these things, they have to meet a threshold before law enforcement can just come together like this and approach a property and make entry. So we're seeing that here at Holmby Hills and also in Miami, where they are searching Sean Combs' Miami home as well. So again, this doesn't just happen overnight. This is a process that they've been working on for quite some time to make sure that they have enough evidence to be able to conduct a raid like this, especially with so many law enforcement agencies involved, investigators involved, and you see just personnel involved on location right there. And you do see a number of people. This is going to be an active situation for quite some time. Again, we don't know what they're looking for. We don't know what the interest is right now. We can only presume that it is part of a sex trafficking investigation. Those are multiple lawsuits that Sean Combs have been facing this year alone, allegations that he denies. But clearly, this could be all part of the process here. But again, law enforcement does just not go in willy-nilly into a home and conduct a raid like this unless they get the necessary evidence they need to get that search warrant to acquire entry as well. So if we could take a look from Haley's point of view, it does seem like there are more individuals gearing up or maybe more investigators on the scene from the ground there, Haley.
Hey, Sandra. Yes, we're actually trying to get an interview lined up, obviously live with the Department of Homeland Security. We had a lady come down here just a minute ago and give her card. So trying to contact her so we can, of course, get some official details from her, because everything that we're getting is basically behind the scenes from our law enforcement sources here. So basically, we don't have anything new yet. We're still just waiting to kind of figure out exactly what happened. We know, of course, P. Diddy's homes on both coasts have been raided. You can see some more officers coming out of his property right now. Just trying to see if I could see the lady who we're hoping to get the interview with, and she's just messaging me back.
P. Diddy's
so
house,
send her
the
an email
rapper,
for the request first.
you know,
so we're working
the
on
rapper
get you some
that
more
does
details.
that.
But
His house is getting
still,
raided.
Still very active on scene. Just more and more vehicles showing up. This is largely most of the law enforcement officers here, Sandra, are of course the Department of Homeland Security, and then we also have LASD and LAPD here as well. So as soon as I can get anything official,
Feds are also
camera,
raiding
we'll come
his
back,
Miami home right now.
We'll come back and let you know.
Definitely. I know what it's like on the ground right there. You're dealing with a lot of officials trying to get some answers, trying to talk to people, and of course it is very difficult.
P. Diddy's house is getting raided right now,
so we will let you
he's like
right there on the ground. Let's
the Epstein of rap,
again. As I was mentioning
welcome,
the procedure
welcome,
of
guys.
this, and you've covered so many of these types of stories. You've been overhead when these raids have happened.
Look, they're raiding it live right now.
Clearly, they are looking for something. They have enough evidence.
It's live right now,
and they were able to get a search warrant before they could even do or conduct a raid like this.
Oh, you definitely, Sandra, and what you're talking about really kind of shows exactly what you're trying to point out, that this didn't just happen overnight. This wasn't just an accusation and they came and, knocked down the doors and started tearing up the house. This was something that's an ongoing investigation. Lawyers, attorneys, and district attorneys, they all have to sign off on this. They have to look this over. Judges have to make that decision as well, and nobody wants to be on the end of a wrongful seizure. So, of course, they needed to show evidence that there is a reason for this type of force and for these officers to make their way into this home. And then again, of course, the world we live in today, all of these officers that are showing up, they all know that, everybody's under a watchful eye nowadays. So they made every effort to do this as quickly and as less destructive as possible. We watched them trying to get through one of those side gates, that pedestrian gate was giving them a little bit of an issue, but in the end, they got in there, and after that, they made their way in very quickly. We didn't see any doors being smashed or things getting kicked in. It was basically a lot of opening up and just letting that garage door, somebody got in there and they opened up that garage door, and or possibly the people inside were curious what was going on and they opened up that garage door. But again, the forceful entry part of it, it really truly was just in a little bit here in that side gate. Everything else was very quick and with etiquette would be the best way to say it, actually. Yeah. They went in and they just did what they needed to do. And again, the reason why they're still there, I can tell you, it's not like a television show where they're pulling out drawers and dumping out clothes and just trashing the place. They just want to make sure that there are no other people inside that building that may still be scared, hiding, or having a problem. And that as soon as that word is given, which I'm sure is going to come shortly, because we already saw a couple of the groups making their way in, less armed. So they're making their way in. They're going to start looking for, and of course, even in that warrant, they're going to have a list of things that they are able to look at, able to take. It isn't just a random search. They actually have to go in and actually find things that they believe have information or evidence that could create a guilty or innocent situation for Sean Combs. So at any rate, this is still very ongoing, very preliminary, but again, we do see a large force out there, which, like you're trying to say, or what I believe you did say, is that this is a warranted search. And of course,
look at that mansion, guys. He's like the Epstein of rap.
Specific pieces of information. What
He's
they are,
the
we don't
Epstein
know.
of rap.
We may never know, but right now that search is definitely ongoing.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, we've covered so many of these different types of raids. Obviously, not always at a celebrity mansion like this in Holmby Hills, but clearly sometimes you see them having to forcefully enter a property and seize evidence, and it doesn't always go so smoothly. And it was, in fact, very smooth the way they gained entry into this property. And after they figured out that side entrance, they were able to make entry. But it's not like they show in the movies, as you mentioned, Stu, right? They weren't battering down doors and destroying property. This is very methodical, and in terms of many stories we've covered like this, it was a very easy entry, and they were able to access the property and get on site. So clearly, they're ready for anything. Whatever they're going to be met with, you don't know, and that is why they make sure that they are safe in numbers, that they're armored, and that is why you see such a big force out there, because you never know what kind of emotion you're going to be met with.
Definitely, and emotion is really what plays a lot of it, and that's one of the things that we were talking about is, you know, right now, that was the gate where they were having all that trouble. They're actually looking at that actual door and propping it open, but that was the door that was giving them trouble. And I was trying to figure out if that is actually maybe like a private entrance for that back house. It does actually look like it. It seems like, you know, if you're staying there, that's how you get in and out without going through the actual house itself. But you can see they still have personnel there on scene. Every house, there's 3 properties that I would say on this big piece of property. They all have some sort of somebody there, just making sure that there isn't anything being taken or anything moving in and out, and or another person in that area.
What is
but
happening?
That main house,
Diddy's house
there's
is
still
getting
a
ready.
number of folks that like armored personnel that we've seen go in and have not seen come out, but there's some of those ones that are not wearing the gear, and those are that first group that made their way in. They were here originally. They came with the with the armored trucks. They did not make their way into the property. They waited outside, and now they are actually making their way to that front door, which shows you that their progress is being made. And of course, we will keep keeping an eye on the as we call them, and it is what they are, the suits down there. I'm sure those are the ones that are pretty much running the show, or where all the evidence is going to go to in the end. They are still outside, so that shows you that they're going to be waiting. I would venture to say when they find something, those are the guys that are going to make their way in and actually looking at and taking things from this home. But right now, that still, that process, I wouldn't even think has actually even started.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to take a lot of time. That is a huge mansion to begin with. And then it depends on what they're looking for. It could be as small as a hard drive or as big as boxes and boxes full of evidence or information they're trying to collect and gather. And where all of that information is also the tricky part. I mean, think about going into a stranger's home. You don't know where they put things. And so it could be very hidden. So this whole process, it could take a lot of time in terms of them finding what they made entry for. So this is a methodical, lengthy process. And again, this is taking place right here in Holmby Hills, as well as his Miami home. And I'm sure law enforcement officials from both sides in Miami and LA are certainly talking to each other
and Los
as they
Angeles.
go through this.
I
as
believe
well.
this is
But
Los
still
Angeles. Look
no
at this.
sign of Sean Combs
Breaking
himself.
news in
We
Los
don't know where
Angeles,
he is.
guys.
It's not clear if they're looking for
They are
him.
raiding
He may be
P.
in New
Diddy's
York, as
house.
Haley was mentioning on the ground there. But
Breaking
clearly,
news, guys.
this was
P.
in all a
Diddy's
very
house
peaceful
is getting
raid
raided.
as they made entry. And right now, as they are making their way in and out of the property as they conduct their search. But a search that is just beginning, as you see those suits, the investigators taking their time, making sure everything is done properly and methodically in terms of what they're looking for at this point.
Breaking news,
Again,
guys.
we
P.
have a
Diddy's
lot of
house
questions
is
that we
getting
just
raided
don't know
right
the
now on
answers
live.
to at this point. We do have someone on the line right now, Hal Kemper. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you can make light of what we're looking at in terms of Homeland Security making entry into the Holmby Hills mansion of Sean Combs.
Sandra, this is a Homeland Security investigations that appears to be on site. What they're probably looking for is, well, I should say in general, they look at human trafficking and sex trafficking being a component of that. And of course, there's been some rather big civil suit stuff that's taken place, but also the New York case where the statute of limitations basically had been rescinded, allowing them to look back many years in this case. Part of it was there have been allegations that he was drugging young women, so that there was which certainly implies that it was rape that had taken place at some point. But I think what HSI is probably looking at is the interstate aspects of it. If there was any online activity that could have taken place, and that's usually where HSI would have a jurisdictional interest. Homeland Security Investigations being part of the Department of Homeland Security, looking at the interstate side, mostly online, and whatever took place across state lines. And of course, he travels all over the place, so I'm sure they're looking at him potentially transporting women around the country, and whether that was tied to a larger criminal activity.
Yeah, definitely Homeland Security involved in any interstate, as you mentioned, and international criminal activity here. So what exactly do you think everyone is looking for at this point? We saw such a large number of law enforcement make entry.
Well, it's a combination of both local and federal. And from what I understand, the local law enforcement has the specific lead at each one of these locations, with the federal federal investigators coming in with them in concert. What they're probably looking for is any evidence that they can gather, certainly any images, pictures, video, anything online. I've no doubt that they're going in and gathering up any electronic media, to include any laptops, any flash drives, anything that he might have that might support whatever allegations, whatever reasonable suspicion that they have that led to these search warrants. Just to get a search warrant like this requires a certain substantial legal barrier has to be, or legal argument, or legal litmus test has to be met just to get them to sign off. Particularly knowing with somebody with means like this, that if they go into their home, they're going to be met with some very capable lawyers on the defendant's part to challenge what was ever done, and everything they do there is going to be challenged. So you can imagine not only did they have to work with the district attorney and potentially assistant U.S. attorneys in arranging this, but they also are being very careful on how they're gathering any evidence.
Welcome, guys. Breaking news. If you're new here, subscribe. We are watching P. Diddy's house raid right now.
Speaking of his attorneys, we did reach out for comment. We have not yet heard back. Obviously, we want to hear his side. For Sean Combs' part, he has denied any allegations regarding sex trafficking and any investigation into that.
Look at this.
But yeah,
that's an FBI agent.
This could take a lot of time in
like
terms
a Department of Homeland Security
drive and
raiding the
drives
dude's
and any
place
computers
live.
they may find. Like I was mentioning before, Hal, it's very difficult to know where someone would have that or would hide that if they were trying to hide evidence. And we're looking at a big mansion here.
Yeah, that's a
before
huge
we get back to you,
mansion.
Hal, let's go to Haley on the ground there.
Hey, Sandra, yes, we just got that statement from the Department of Homeland Security that I was trying to get for you guys about 10 minutes ago. It doesn't say a whole lot, but it says this is attributed to Homeland Security investigations. Earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. We will provide further information.
Is this New York or Los Angeles? I thought this was where's Homely Hills?
Here on the scene, on the ground, a lot of the law enforcement officers with Homeland Security have gone up the hill. You can see one of those big command vehicles coming out, one of those police vehicles. In the meantime, behind us, several of his friends,
so this is happening in LA. That's crazy.
Have been trying to get through the crime scene to get to the house, but of course, LAPD not letting them through. We've tried to get comment from them on camera to find out if they have any more information about what's going on, but they haven't been able to they don't want to provide us any information, I should say. And just in case you're just joining us, we have homes of P. Diddy being raided on both coasts, Miami and his home here in Holmby Hills.
So, Haley, just to clarify, in that statement, it didn't mention Sean Combs, correct? Or anything?
It doesn't, but we have confirmation from multiple law enforcement sources that this does involve Sean Combs or P. Diddy. But no, this statement, I'll read it one more time, says earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from both HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners.
All right.
We'll provide further information as it becomes available. Of course, we're trying to get them to talk to us on camera, but they said, the lady in particular who sent me the statement says she's not allowed to.
Thank you so much. Yeah, not really clarifying a whole lot, though, but clearly understandable because right now, maybe they're not in position to divulge any more information. So let's bring in Hal Kempfer here again from Homeland Security. Thank you so much for your expertise in all this. I don't know if you heard that statement, but didn't really say anything except that an investigation is underway in Miami and here. So clearly not stating who it involves or what the charges are.
It doesn't, and they might be crime scenes. I should clarify. I'm not.
This is live, guys. This is happening in Los Angeles. They are raiding that rapper's place.
Investigations over many years. Very familiar with not only the agency but also a lot of the individuals, a lot of the people who work there, to include here in Los Angeles, especially.
Look at this, guys.
What they're
they are
looking
raiding
at
this
the
rapper's
two residences,
place.
one in New York, one in Los Angeles. Without it, and I haven't seen the documentation, but if it doesn't name Sean Combs by name, it's probably because there's been allegations that criminal activity had taken place.
Guys, if you're new here, also follow on YouTube.
At these locations. So what they're doing is they're looking at the locations themselves and investigating them as potential crime scenes. And of course, with that, I'm sure the scope is such that they can look just about anywhere, gather up any materials. They're probably gathering up any electronic materials. They're probably doing things like imaging the place, taking a lot of pictures and stuff that may be
used
used
later. This is happening live, guys.
Could be in reference
they are
to
raiding
what,
P. Diddy's house.
On the stand that they may look at various pictures of the locations themselves to help refresh their memory while they're talking about various activities that may have taken place or alleged to have taken place. So there's a lot of reasons why they might not focus on him per se. Also, there's another thing too, is he runs a fairly large organization. the fact that they don't name him might mean that they're looking at other activities that could have taken place within his immediate, entourage or his organization that involve these properties. So one can't rule out anything at this point because we don't know a lot.
Sure, and obviously this is just their statement to the press at this point. So what the actual legal documents say and what the statement they gave us is very, very different, let's be clear. So we're sometimes, not privy to all of those details and information until it becomes available at a later date. But you were mentioning the whole search process. We are seeing so many law enforcement officials, investigators, and this is basically 3 properties on this entire, or 3 homes, I should say, buildings on this entire property in Holmby Hills we're talking about. How long is it going to take for them to go through it? Do they have a time limit? I mean, essentially, some people are going to come back into the home, right, at some point. So how does that all play out?
I'm sure if you were to ask them, they'd say it's going to take as long as it takes. These are huge properties.
This is a giant house in LA, guys.
Looking through one home takes a lot of time, but when you have 3 very large buildings with a lot of different rooms, various different levels on those homes. Also, they're going to be looking at every nook and cranny. They'll be looking anything that's subsurface in the home. They'll be looking
in the house. So they're looking for stuff, and that's a big house. Look at the car right here.
To find out if there's any hidden compartments, safes, things like that, and walls that aren't readily apparent. There could be a lot of different things they're looking for, and they may have dogs there too, looking for various different things as well. But they're probably looking for more where stuff may be held. I would imagine with that, and of course anything tied to any of the allegations. We don't know, but certainly the fact that they're there indicates that they probably had some.
The house looks nice.
To say that certain things happened or certain things were there when they were there. And
he's like the Epstein of rap. There was rumors about him like a month ago that he's the Epstein of rap.
Correct. So there's probably just a lot of things that they're working through, checking off a list of stuff. And by the way, they may be looking on the grounds themselves. There could be stuff that's not necessarily in the buildings that are on the grounds. And of course,
this rapper is a billionaire.
Well.
This dude,
I imagine it's going to take quite time with the property this big for them to
is a billionaire. And he's a rapper. P. Diddy.
Potential spaces and places where materials could be.
Thank you so much. We will have more on Fox 11 app. So if we get information, we'll once again. And now we resume to our original program.
Faces are family farm.
Hey, what happened?
And our third player is Zach. D20.
Bro, what happened?
He actually had no idea. Here's our host.
That's crazy. Regular scheduled program. What are you talking about? Bro looks so shady here. Alright guys, thank you for joining. I'll see you guys later.
Contestants who are here today to battle it out for their shot at our grand prize, $5,000. It is our returning champion, Naomi. So far, $5,000 and 4 amazing hotel stays. And I know, Naomi, you got a little taste of it there. You've had plenty of it. You want to get back there and win another.